Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss It, Chapter 2. Starring Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransom, forgive me if I said that wrong, Andy Bean, and Bill Skarsgård, and directed by Andy Machete. Now before I get into this movie, yes, I did do It before. It's in the earlier shows. And before I get into this review, when I saw this at premiere night, I got a couple things I gotta show you. First of all, I got this as a popcorn box. Or bucket, excuse me very much. That's one. And what comes with it? A drink. And don't worry, wash them out before I ever put them in here for this review. So, let's just get straight into this movie, shall we? The movie begins in 2016 Derry, Maine, as a young gay man is beaten up by a homophobic youth gang and thrown from a bridge. And how fucked up for today's news, people beating up on a gay man. I mean, Jesus Christ. And it leads him in the riverbank. He is killed when his heart is eaten by Pennywise, returned by Bill Skarsgård, who does a good performance here, but not quite as quotable as the first film, in my opinion. Mike Hanlon, played by Isaiah Mustafa, who's the only member of the Losers Club who stayed in Derry and overhears the incident on a police scanner and rushes on the scene as he's living in the upstairs in the of the library. Upon realizing that it has resurfaced, Mike makes phone calls to the other members of the Losers back to Derry, as they are now in their late 30s, have small recollection of their childhood memories. And I like Mike in this movie, and he is relatable, unlike in the original It from 1990. We start with Bill Denbrough, played by James McAvoy, who I like in this movie, but he's not. I mean, I think he's kind of great, but mostly good in this movie, and is a successful author and screenwriter who often gets criticized for his story's endings. Beverly Marsh, played by Jessica Chastain, is a fashion designer who endures an abusive relationship with her husband named Tom Rogan, who is such a dick. Ben Hanscom, played by Jay Ryan, has lost weight and is a successful, handsome, but lonely architect. No, I'm not gay, by the way. Which, there's nothing wrong with that as far as I'm concerned. But I do like looking at Beverly, and Jessica Chastain can pull that off very well. And I do like Ben in this movie. I think he does have a good performer playing him as far as I'm concerned, too. Eddie Kaspbrak, played by James Ransom, is a risk assessor with an overbearing wife, and he was a problematic character because he was annoying the shit out of me in number one. And number two, there were times I couldn't tell who was who when they're all together. And Stanley Uris, played by Andy Bean, is a wealthy partner in a large accounting firm, and Richie Tozier, played by Bill Hader, has become a famous stand-up comedian, and I thought he stole the show right off the fucking bat. He was a crack-up in this movie. They are deeply disturbed by the phone call, but reluctantly agree to return to Derry. But Stanley, however, commits suicide in the bathtub, which was rather intense and dark in my mind. The remaining members of the Losers reunite at a local Chinese restaurant, and I am liking that scene much better here than the 1990 movie. However, the night goes horrifically when their fortune cookies transform into monstrous conjuring by it, aka Pennywise, I'll just say throughout the show. These are better effects here than in the 1990 film, except for when we get to the ending with the spider Pennywise looking thing. I have problems with that. Bill confronts Mike over the situation, and after Mike reveals that he called them back to Derry to stop Pennywise, Richie and Eddie decide to leave. And how many times do they both threaten to leave? It got annoying after a while. Mike reveals to Bill that he met with a Native American tribe who showed him the ritual of Chud. I don't know how you say it, so forgive me for that. Which is a way to destroy Pennywise once and for all. Bill and Mike convince Richie and Eddie to stay and finish what they started. And again, how many times will they be convinced to stay? I counted twice or 3 times, at least. And it got annoying after a while, too. A flashback shows the losers bully Henry Bowers, who honestly looks pretty damn bulky as an adult, but as a kid he gets arrested for the murder of his father back in the present, or should I say 2016. He does, in the 2016 bulky days, Henry is in a mental hospital and escapes with Pennywise's help, and that scene was acted kind of oddly placed. Mike says in order for the ritual to work, each loser must have an artifact, from their past to place in the ancient pottery. For example, Beverly goes to her old home and finds the love letter Ben wrote for her, though she believes Bill wrote it. And that scene was freaky. Just the way Mrs. Kirsch was acting in those scenes just freaked me the fuck out. Bill goes to the sewer when Georgie was killed and recovers his paper boat, and before meeting a young boy on a skateboard named Dean. I never got it in the movie, but IMDb's telling me this. Who is never named, and tells Bill that he is living in his old house, and after 10 years voices in the shower drains, which is a sign that he's dead meat. That was predictable. Bill tells Dean to leave Derry and never come back, but he refuses, which he'll regret that when you get to a scene later in the movie. Ben goes to the high school and finds his old yearbook page, which Beverly was the only person to sign, but the scene in the classroom with Ben and Beverly was where she smokes a cigarette in the classroom and her head was on fire, and she was telling him he's disgusting, and the CGI on her head looked really fake. Just fake. Eddie goes to a pharmacy and recovers an inhaler where he remembers seeing his mother being tied up, viciously assaulted by the leaper in the basement. And that went on a little too long. This is a long movie for 2 hours and 49 minutes, and I'm thinking, for fuck's sakes, cut some of this out. Richie goes to an abandoned arcade where he finds an old game token, and the game was Street Fighter he was playing with someone when he remembers a bad memory of him playing taunted for his sexuality while he was playing Street Fighter with Henry Bowers' cousin, which was kind of fucked up. The other thing is noticed here was they were referencing Warner Brothers quite a bit, like the studio, and the titles of their movies were getting a shining line, like Here's Johnny, which I'll talk about later in this year, because of the sequel, Dr. Sleep, which I did see the trailer before this movie. After escaping individual encounters with Pennywise, the losers use a shower cap from their childhood clubhouse as a placement for Stan, and Mike finds a rock that started their fight against Henry Bowers and his gang. I didn't find these scenes too bad. Well, I mean, they were a little bad, but not too bad, I'll say, honestly. Eddie is attacked by Henry Bowers, but he is able to defend himself. Henry escapes before Ben and Beverly can catch him, which that stabbing looked pretty damn painful, and I like how Eddie is stabbed Henry Bowers in the stomach guts to defend himself. Bill realizes that Pennywise is going after Dean at the carnival. Bill finds Dean in the Hall of Mirrors, but is unable to save him from being violently devoured by Pennywise, and again, I knew it was coming from the get-go, and that was a real problem with me. Bill who is traumatized by his failure to save both Georgie and Dean, returns to the abandoned Neibolt house to murder Pennywise by himself, and believe me, McAvoy can be great in other movies, but I have to deem this movie for Bill trying to be the hero of the losers, and because it bothers me that he'll go against the clown on his own, as I thought it was wiry in this whole movie. The rest of the losers, after killing Henry Bowers, arrive to help Bill. Inside, Pennywise takes the form of Stanley's dismembered head to taunt the losers, but they manage to defend themselves. The group ventures down into the sewers and into a chasm where Mike sets up the necessary for the ritual of Chud. I'm just going to keep calling it that. I'm sorry, folks. And including burning the artifacts that gathered from their old memories, and I like that they stick together in order to stop Pennywise for good. Mike instructs the other chant as a phrase, during which Pennywise's deadlights appear and make their way into the pottery. The ritual appeared to be a success, but a large red balloon inflates under the lid and out from a pottery until pops, revealing a giant version of Pennywise with the spider-like legs and blades on the ends of them, which did look fake in a silly kind of way. It does really look fake, I'm not gonna lie to you. And I should have brought this up a long time ago. At the bicycle scene in the antique store, Stephen King does make an appearance at that point. And again, I think he's another person like Martin Scorsese who is never brief, especially with his books. Pennywise pressures Mike into telling the losers that he never told them the final portion of the ritual, that each of them must die, which was a little weird to me. The losers are thrust into nightmarish scenarios in which they are forced to escape from resembling memories from old places in Derry. They spend time in, for example, Bill's enforced to confront the fact that he pretended to be sick on the day of Georgie's death, was not there to save him, which I thought it was bullshit, and especially from the 2017 film. But I might be wrong. While Beverly remembers it when Ben wrote her the love letter years ago, Richie is caught by the deadlights of it, but Eddie saves him by mentally wounded by Pennywise, which I don't feel bad for Eddie later in the scene, because I just couldn't care less. I just couldn't. The losers regroup and realize Pennywise can be killed if they make him feel smaller, than he really is. The losers insult him and make him physically grow smaller and weaker, transforming into a small clown until they are able to tear out his heart and crush it together, ultimately killing Pennywise, which was kind of stupid. A stupid way to kill a spider clown. And honestly, does that really make sense? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Does this make insulting him just so that he can be smaller? Does that make any freaking sense to you? Honestly, I don't think it does. Richie tearfully tries to save Eddie, but Eddie dies from his injuries, and I thought, oh, who cares? The cave then starts to disintegrate around them. Richie tries to take Eddie's body out of the cave, but is held back by the others. The remaining losers return to the quarry where they once swam together and console Richie over Eddie's passing. Excuse me very much. While Beverly and Ben share a kiss, which I thought ended right there. It's a beautiful ending, and but wait, there's still a little more. God damn it. In the aftermath of destroying Pennywise, Bill begins to read a new book while Mike is making out of Derry, which is absolutely about fucking time for him. Anyways, Bill is told by Mike about a letter from Stan that he wrote to every member of the Losers Club before his death. Explaining why he killed himself, Stanley committed suicide to take himself out of the equation. Knowing he couldn't help and would hold them back, but knew they could defeat Pennywise. Meanwhile, Ben and Beverly start a romantic relationship, and Richie returns to the bridge where he had once carved his initials and those of another person now revealed to be Eddie, and Richie recarves them before leaving with Pennywise destroyed. Mike moves away from Derry onto a whole new life, which was a fine ending, but Jesus, cut it out. And same with this whole, what's his name, Eddie and someone. What the fuck was his name again? Richie. Eddie and Richie. It's like, Jesus, do we really, did it not look obvious in the first movie? Like, what the fuck is going on here at this ending point? They should have ended it originally right when they got out of the swimming pool. Oh no, swimming lake, excuse me. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.0 out of 10. This isn't quite as good as the 2017 movie, but better than the 1990 movie. And there is problems with it, sure, but I liked it well enough, despite it's fucked up at times. But I do like this cast. Bill Hader most definitely stole the show. But honestly, it's not as scary, but it's not a great movie either. But, it's good. Don't get me wrong, it is. But for what it is, just do yourself a favor. Go see it once. Like I did. I only saw the movie once. I never went for a second viewing. But you should probably see this movie and give it a try one time. And if you don't like it, don't watch any more after that. Except for maybe Dr. Sleep. I'm not sure how that's going to go this November. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for It Chapter 2. And I will be back next month with Stephen King's The Shining all the way to Dr. Sleep. Yes, there was supposed to be 2 movies, but nope, there's 3. There's the TV movie. Well, first the Jack Nicholson one, and then the TV movie, and then the sequel, Dr. Sleep. So until then, it is over.